This week's show is kind of a special treat for the two of us. We never get to fish together, hardly ever. And I don't think we've ever done a Next Bite show together for
Not that I can remember.
So, I mean, we decided we were going to do one, and what better place than one of our most favorite stretches of water, Lake Oahe in South Dakota. This reservoir, Keith, has treated us well. We've fished a lot of tournaments in our careers here, a lot of wins, top 5, stuff like that, huh?
Right, and we're kind of doing not only coming here to fish, but kind of doing a cool thing in that we've got 2 new prototype crankbaits. They're actually different sizes of flicker shads, and we're going to be testing those out on the water here. We're going to be running some lead core, we're going to be running some boards. We're going to do whatever it takes to get you the next bite.
For Gary Parsons and Keith Kavajecz, walleye fishing is a way of life. And even with all their combined successes in the walleye tournament world, neither one is ever going to stop trying to improve upon their own technique. Whether it means using their combined technical expertise to increase the available precision in your crankbait choices by designing and testing new lures.
You see what it bit on?
Oh yeah, that's your number 6. They want mouse, we'll give them mouse.
Or just constantly being tortured by the more everyday questions like the rest of us.
Why do you like purple? I'd like to get in his head like, hey, why do you like purple?
By volume, Oahe is the 4th largest reservoir in the United States, and with 2,250 miles of shoreline to fish, details like knowing how to efficiently tie on lead core line can mean all the difference when you're constantly combating submerged trees and brush when patterning walleyes.
We broke off one of our lead cores on a tree, so I want to show you how we tie up lead core to our leader. Now obviously lead core is a very heavy line, very thick line, so you couldn't tie your lures right to it. So you need to splice a leader onto this. Get a little piece of the lead from the inside, pull it out about 6 inches or so, break it off, and then just have the Dacron outer shell here. To that, put a little tiny swivel. This is like about a number 16 swivel, and that's small enough that it'll go through the guides of the eyes, and it'll go right into the reel if it has to. Tie that on with a clinch knot, 4 wraps, go down through the bottom loop, and tighten it up. It's a good knot for this Dacron, and it's small enough, again, that that'll go through the eyelets. Just trim off that little bit of a tag there. So now we got just a little swivel on the end of our lead core. Now to that, we're going to add our Fireline leader. I like using Fireline for this kind of lead core because we're snagging into stuff a lot, we're hitting bottom a lot, you might be picking up debris. Fireline is no stretch, the lead core is no stretch, so you can see that lure vibrate real well down there and know when it's running good and when it's not. I'm going to tie an improved clinch on here. I use 8 wraps, go down through the bottom, up through the loop you just made. We're going to trim off that last tag, nice and clean, and that's spliced together. We're going to use about a 15-foot leader of this Fireline, tie on a clip, put on our crankbait, and we're ready to go.
There's one, Keith. I just put the rod in the rod holder.
Just set up and we saw them fish marking up.
Yeah, I got in just a hair too shallow, so we saw them sitting there. That's what I said. I started swinging the boat out a little deeper, so maybe we'll get one. Probably change the speed. I'm letting it out so it's not swimming very fast, and I click it in and it starts speeding right up, and bam! You know, I still think there's a lot of people that don't watch their electronics good enough, Keith. They go to spots. You know, you hear it all the time. I go to my spot, I go to my spot. A lot of times out here on Lake Oahe, the spot's not as important. It's what you see on the graph.
Give me that board so we can see what's on the hook. He feels heavy.
Yeah, he's a pretty heavy fish.
He feels heavy. Here he comes.
Got a lot of weight.
He's staying down. That was a good one. It's a walleye. There's a good netting job. Plus, we don't get the hooks tangled at all.
No, that was perfect timing. You know, only 2 veterans can do it like that. Let's just make it easy.
Yeah, the young kids would have missed that one. Nice fish. Wow. We got the belly. We got the teeth. Sure.
And we got, well, we had the last bite. Now we have to get the next bite.
There you go. All right. Excellent.
What we're we're doing here today is actually a double presentation. We're running a combination of lead core lines off the boat, trolling contours, but yet we've sent some shallow running monofilament lines on the planer boards. And the reasoning behind this is usually you're going to find a depth band where the fish are going to be kind of congregating, where you can mark them. And that's what we're doing with the lead core. We've found fish to be 15 to 20 feet deep, so I'm trying to hold the boat in about 17, using the lead core lines very close to the bottom to pick off the fish that we're marking on the graphs. But at the same time, with the reservoir rising in the last year to 2 years, all the brush and vegetation has been flooded in the backs of these little cups. And so there's trees and brush on the bottom, and the fish are in shallow amongst those. And so we've got monofilament lines on planer boards that we've set so the depths of the crankbaits are running right above this stuff. And the fish come out of the brush and they bust them. So some days the lead core is just firing off because the fish that you're marking are the ones that are biting. Other days the fish are up shallower and the planer boards are firing off. So between the two presentations, we're covering a lot of water. We're finding active fish. We're not really finding big concentrations, but we're picking off the active fish with a dual presentation like this. You know, there's so many 16.5 to 21-inch fish in here. In all the years we've fished here, since what, about the mid-'80s, right? Yeah. I don't think that the fishing has ever been better. There's so many fish in this system.
Yeah. I don't think there's quite the number of really, really big fish.
No,
at least we haven't been catching them, but I mean, for good quality, great walleye fishing, I mean, it's hard to beat right now.
Yeah. This is pretty decent fish, actually.
So I gotta get the net?
You might want to. I mean, he's staying down, he's got some weight.
Yeah, I can get it. We have the technology.
He's feeling better, Keith.
I still don't see him.
Yeah, he's staying down good.
He's a good one here. A lot better than I thought.
Oh man, he fell off too. That's all right. They kind of fool you on the inside turns like that because you don't get their full weight on it.
The one thing about this is you're pulling that crankbait, it's stopping, it's pulling and stop. Just following the turns does that. And I think sometimes that's triggering these fish out here.
With their gill rakers, they cut you so bad, you gotta be careful, especially when they're such brutes like this. There, look at that fish. And I'm holding him here, so I'm not hurting him, but right there, ouch.
Rakers, right here.
Rakers, right there.
And
I'll
they're
tell you
sharp
what.
as can be right there. They seem like they're extra sharp here.
Yeah. So you gotta be a little careful, but
I'll get them back in there.
All right.
I'll get this crankbait out.
A good one.
There you go.
There he goes.
The hot bait for us has obviously been the flicker shad, but like any good bait, one of the key things is to get it in the right zone. Now, as Gary works along these points and these cups and things like that, what we're doing is two different presentations to put our bait in the right zone. On the lead core, we're actually trying to run the baits really close to the bottom. It seems like once the fish move out off of the shoreline areas and set up more on the breaks, you got to keep that bait within about a foot or so of the bottom. Conversely, on the boards on the inside, it seems like the fish are more willing to come up and hit the bait, which is good because there's a lot of brush and stuff and grass down on the bottom. So we're actually running the baits probably 3 to 5 or even 6 feet off the bottom, and those fish are coming up and hitting them. So bait positioning is real important, especially if you got a hot bait like a flicker shad.
Amidst all the intense thinking that's gone into breaking down this reservoir walleye bite.
I mean, they're just sitting in here eating. I think it's a lot of smelt they're eating right now.
Yeah, every once in a while they throw up minnows and they look like smelt.
Yeah, that'll work.
It's good to know that between these two longtime friends and business partners, that there's always plenty of room left for a little friendly competition.
It's good he sets everything up and I get to start fishing. I am the better fisherman of us two. I let him think he is because he's quite a bit older than I am. We all know. Let me just real quick go over the equipment that we're using today. Obviously, two separate setups. With the lead core, what we're using is a line counter reel, so we can precisely let out the amount of line to get these baits right close to the bottom. We're using trolling rods. I like to either use the 8.5 footer or the 10-foot walleye angler rods for this. Got a nice backbone and can take up that initial shock. For the line on your lead core, we're using an 18-pound test lead core, very standard lead core for walleye fishing, and then we're using a 10-4 Fireline leader on there so that everything is no stretch and we can really monitor that lure real well, make sure it's always vibrating down there. The only baits we've been really running because they're catching all the fish are flicker shads, purple and white, green and white, and then on this other rod you can see there's a pearl white they call it, but we call it mouse a lot of times, got a gray top with a white belly on it. Pretty much anything with white bellies, probably because, you know, they're eating on those smelt and white colors so much. The other setup that we're using out on the boards is, again, just a trolling rod with mono on it. This is 10-pound Berkley XT, just real standard trolling line, and we're actually only letting out about 30 or 40 feet of line, keeping these baits suspended out there. Then we're attaching the board and letting that go out to the side. So lead core setup, mono setup, both covering different depths, but both very good at catching fish out here on Lake Oahe.
Here's one, inside board, huh?
I guess so.
Well, this feels a good one.
You can give it to me?
Yeah, I'll clear this rod. I'm right in the middle of a turn, so I'm gonna move this line out of your way.
All right, you run the boat, I'll catch the fish. This is a good fish.
Yeah.
And just the way the board kind of squats back there.
Yeah.
All the nice ones, look, they kind of pull that tail of that board down, and we like that.
It's called a butt dragger. When they lift up off the water, too, away from the boat, they're usually heavier fish. All right. I'm not even going to ask if you need the net for this one.
He's still about 40 back there. We only had him out 50.
Yeah, I had 50 out on that one.
That must only be going down about 5-6 feet, huh?
Yeah, it's only about that deep.
He's starting to come, huh?
Yeah, there he is. Oh, he's a nice one. Yeah.
Get him.
Come here. Yeah, that's a good fish. He's a wide body.
Oh, I love it when they hit that middle hook like that. Like you said, they come up out of that brush and they bust it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're coming probably up from the bottom and hitting it.
That would be my guess. Yeah, it's not very deep in there. I'm guessing maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on how the contour.
Right.
So we don't have those baits anywhere close to bottom. These fish have got to be coming up and going kawoom.
That's a nice fish there.
Yeah, it really is.
Very pretty little guy. Look at how big and fat though. Just unbelievable amount of weight on every fish that's out here.
I mean, they've been eating hearty. They're full of food.
All right, what are you gonna do here, buddy? There you go. Perfect. You know, a lot of people use the little inline planer boards to spread out their lures when they're out in open water. But as you can see, we're using them also here on structure trolling. One of the big things that can happen though is as you're making these real sharp turns following structure, the board lines want to hop over each other. One of the ways to really help out with that is to make sure that your rod tips of your planer board rods are spread apart real nice. So you'll notice what I did here was I used an 8.5 footer on my inside board, and then the outside board I used a 12 footer. That gives you 4 extra feet. I also tip back this rod holder, put that one straight out, so it even gives it a little bit more spread. So by keeping those tips spread apart, your boards won't tangle as much and they're fishing longer.
Topics, leading information on tackle and techniques to make you a better fisherman. Presented by Mercury.
One of the cool things about Lake Oahe is there's almost always a crankbait bite going on. When Keith and I developed the number 5 and 7 flicker shad, we worked with the top engineers from Berkeley to get the actions perfect. And we took it to a lot of bodies of water, and Lake Oahe was one of them. We're also now, this is kind of a cool time because we're working on 2 new prototypes. Working on a little number 4 and a size in between the 5 and 7, the number 6. These are actually hand-cut baits. We only have very few of them. And we have been hammering fish on lead core line with these baits. I mean, it's just been phenomenal all week long. So we know now that we've got 2 brand new baits that the fish love. Now the next phase of the operation is to build some more baits. And then from that point on, we can fine-tune the actions. We can add rattles, different pitches, things like that to get the baits perfect. And the only way you do that is by letting the fish tell you. So phase 1, huge success. Phase 2 coming up. By the time you guys see these baits on the shelves, which shouldn't be much longer, we're going to have these baits fine-tuned. They're going to be fished on many bodies of water, so you're going to have the same or better success than you had with the 5 and 7 flicker sheds. So we're going to have a whole family, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, and that's how crankbaits should be developed. Oh, there's one.
Lead?
Yeah.
The lead core strikes.
Yeah, this is a big fish too.
Professional tournament anglers Gary Parsons and Keith Kavajecz continue to stretch
Hey, look at how long I went out for that one.
Wow.
their crankbait spread over the shallower, structure-laden waters of Lake Oahe.
Wow. Lake Oahe walleye. They don't get much better than this.
All the while also keeping a few cranks sprawling tightly over its deeper cascading contours by using a combination of monofilament with planer boards and lead core.
Ooh, we got 2 fish.
Wow, that one ripping back. Wow. I like yours better looking than mine.
This setup has really given them the best of both worlds as far as boating fish.
You sure don't want to trade rods here?
No, we're in a straight stretch where I can actually fish this one, so.
Constant bites off the cranks with the lead core, combined with the chance at raising some of the bigger fish they have seen that are coming from further up amongst the wooded shallows.
He's got a little weight to him.
Well, mine's about a 25-incher.
Well, I would say that would be a good one.
Not too
That's
bad.
actually a very nice fish.
I'll just set him down for a second. Get you a net. Still feeling good?
Yeah, I mean, he's got some weight. I haven't seen the fish yet.
He's a good one. He's a good one, Gary.
Wow.
He is a good one.
That's a good one.
Did you see the old double take there?
I couldn't see the fish, but I felt him kind of make that jerk. But then I felt the give again, so I lifted back. The guy must have turned his head for you.
Look at this little pearl white lure. That was new when we started today, and now it's just gobbled on. Those aren't from running into rocks or anything else.
those are
all
tooth marks.
Tooth marks.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a nice fish. Man, oh man. Boy, they're coming in hot too. Well, and those inside boards are up in the shallower water, so they got plenty of spunk
He's a
lift.
big one. Holy man.
We've been coming out here a lot of years, but it's such good fishing right now. It's unbelievable.
I tell you, we've been here since the mid-'80s, Keith. The fishing has never been better, and you still can get big, old, fat, quality fish on Oahe like the old days. It's August when they're not supposed to be biting, but they are pile driving our baits today.
Maybe the new days are just new bait.
Yeah, well, that could be.
I have this uncanny feeling the fish are biting.
You get these feelings often?
Only when I'm in South Dakota.
Oh, I got crankbait in my shirt here. So I gotta take this off, Keith. I can get this out of my
What, I gotta slow down for you or what?
Yeah, you're gonna get
Fish on the ground, we got clothes on the ground. Wasn't there a song about that? Fishing with your clothes on the ground or something like that?
Man, he pounded around.
I don't know if it's the right thing or not.
The bass.
Bass. The close cousin to the sheephead. Let the expert have it.
Oh, wow. Leave it to the expert. Swings in a 1920 inch, a 3.5 pound fish the way it looks.
Yeah, well, it takes the expert not to need a net, see?
Oh, okay.
For your South Dakota fishing or hunting adventure, check out Oahe Wings and Walleyes for your lodging and guiding needs. Visit OaheWings.com for an incredible inside look at one of South Dakota's finest outfitters, or simply call 605-649-7331.